Part 1.
8:16 a.m. I clocked in at the office door, right on time. The office reeked of instant coffee. Marcus was sitting in his beat-up office chair, staring at his computer. I figured he'd pulled another all-night. Marcus was our company's overtime junkie. The time on his watch never matched anyone else's, which caused all sorts of problems. But weirdly, he never seemed tired, like those tireless superheroes in anime or those action movie protagonists who can take a bullet and fight 10 men at once. That wasn't a good thing, though. My feelings about Marcus were complicated. I admired him, but I also thought he was an idiot being worked like a pack mule. This mix of emotions taught me a lot about him. While I was mentally complaining, he seemed to sense my gaze and turned around with a raised eyebrow. Despite looking fresh as a daisy, his wrinkled shirt made me frown involuntarily. "You're here early, kid. Youth really is full of energy," he said. I didn't respond, so he rolled his entire chair over in my direction. The brown liquid in his white, ceramic mug nearly spilled from the movement. I awkwardly stepped back and quickly spoke. "Not that early. Work starts at 8:30, so I've got 10 more minutes. You worked another night shift, Marcus? Take care of yourself." 10 minutes left? It's not even 6 o'clock yet, he said. Marcus glanced down at the watch on his wrist, then tapped his forehead and drained his coffee in one gulp. I eyed the stubborn coffee stain on the mug rim, thinking the brown residue had probably fused with the ceramic glaze permanently by now. "Marcus, what time does your watch say?" I asked. 8:16 p.m., he replied. "You really need to adjust that." Marcus waved his hand dismissively, telling me not to worry about his watch. I turned back, pulled out my chair, and sat down. Using the desk to shield myself, I rolled my eyes. Marcus was actually a trustworthy senior on the job. He once stayed up for 2 nights straight to correct all the data errors a team member had made. That story didn't make much of an impression on management, but to us lower-level employees, he was like a god. For example, Lily at the opposite desk really admired Marcus. She followed him around like a tail, constantly calling out his name and occasionally scribbling notes on what looked like mentoring tips. But I didn't really pay attention to that. I basically never worked overtime. I had nothing against working overtime. Now we actually got paid extra for it, sometimes even more than our regular wage. When there were no major personal matters, I fully supported company-wide overtime. But the company only had so much work. Once we finished our assigned tasks during regular hours, there was no real need to stay late. Staying meant you were doing it for relationship building, which didn't earn you anything. That wasn't real overtime pay. Marcus was different from me. He didn't work overtime for relationships or money. He just loved working overtime. Every day after finishing his own pile of work, he'd carry that white ceramic mug around, looking here and there. Then in the evening he'd help out some unreliable coworker. Every time I left, I had to crane my neck over the tower of books on Marcus's desk to see his cheerful expression, and then I'd wonder to myself, did people like this actually exist? Didn't he get tired? When I was still an intern last year, I was really curious about his mindset, but since I wasn't a full-time employee yet and he never said anything, I didn't ask. Later, when I became a full-time employee, I happened to end up in Marcus's team. At the welcome dinner, everyone drank quite a bit, and Marcus got pretty drunk. Seeing my chance, I tried to get him to reveal the secret of his overtime legend. But the guy just burped in my face. "I'll tell you a secret. I can control time," he said. I didn't take him seriously. I thought he was just drunk. Later I found out that his time control was literally just adjusting his watch to whatever time he wanted. Everyone at the company knew this secret, but they just thought it was his way of motivating himself. So I figured arguing with a crazy person about whether he was actually working overtime was a waste of energy. The reason Marcus had been working overtime recently was because our company had landed a city government contract. Lily was scatterbrained, and we couldn't send her to handle the meetings with government officials, so Marcus and I were stuck doing the legwork. Today was another one of those days. The air conditioning in the tax bureau office was broken, and there was a pile of people waiting, making it feel like a steamer. Marcus had taken a number for the fourth floor to get documents. I stood at the building entrance, squinting, trying to find some shade to sit in. But the high school next to the tax bureau was having exams, and parents had parked in a long line along the street. I grabbed a pamphlet from a local education center and squeezed into the group of middle-aged adults sitting against the wall, using the pamphlet to fan myself, thinking that no matter how rich or important people were, they all sat on the same curb as us lower-level workers. Just as I was enjoying this thought, my phone rang, and I instantly received angry glares from all the nearby parents. I looked at the caller ID and carefully backed away to the sun-baked courtyard to take the call. "Mom, didn't I tell you not to call during work unless it's an emergency?" I said. Right then, Marcus came out of the building and waved at me. I gestured to him, and he walked over with an old man's leisurely pace. He then openly listened to my phone call. As soon as I saw my mom's name on the screen, I could guess what the conversation would be about. Sure enough, after some seemingly concerned pleasantries, my mom brought up some friend's coworker's daughter that I'd never heard of before. The girl is at the right age, has good conditions, and is looking for a boyfriend. Hearing the same script I'd practically memorized, I couldn't help but roll my eyes. The summer heat was relentless, like a convection oven from above and below. Okay, I'm working. I'll hang up," I said. After hanging up, I kept sighing. Marcus, who'd been eavesdropping the whole time, started laughing at my misery. "What's wrong, kid? You're arguing with your mom at your age," he said. I looked at him helplessly and took the documents from him, tucking them into my bag. "My mom wants me to go on a blind date this weekend or next. Look, everyone's working overtime this week. When would I have time?" I explained. "Oh, man, you need to learn time management. Just turn back the clock like I do. That's how I met your sister-in-law back then. But look at Lily, that girl really likes you," Marcus said. "Come on, you're killing me," I replied. I pulled out a bottle of mineral water that had been heating in my bag and handed it to Marcus. Then I plopped down on a sun-warmed stone block and wiped the sweat from my face. "I really don't know how you manage time like that, Marcus. Look at me. How am I supposed to find time for a blind date? With this salary, no girl would even look at me. And office romance? That's the worst. You'd end up fighting over work eventually. Plus, I'm pretty sure Lily already has a boyfriend. I see her on the phone constantly, and she looks serious," I said. "All right, I'll think of something," Marcus said. He looked serious for a moment, like he was walking to his execution. Then he drained the entire bottle of water in one go and let out a belch. "Whatever solution you come up with," I silently thought, "I hope you convince my mom to give up and marry off your 16-year-old son to me instead." I inwardly rolled my eyes, just hoping he'd drop the subject and not gang up on me with my mom. Everything required proper procedures and approvals these days, supposedly to make projects look official and assign responsibility. Of course, that just meant the foot soldiers like us had to run around everywhere. By the time I picked up the final stamped document after running from the east side of the city to the west side, Marcus and I finally relaxed and decided to grab something to eat at a small restaurant below the city government offices. The server kept looking back at our table, which made me hesitate to comment on what was clearly a breakfast-style meal in front of Marcus. "Marcus, is that really filling? Buns and soy milk for dinner?" I asked. I'm eating breakfast, he said. I craned my neck to check his watch. 6 a.m. All right, this guy was genuinely living his life according to whatever time his watch showed. We ate in silence. I seriously focused on my beef noodle soup, which had very little beef, while Marcus suddenly started discussing philosophy after eating a couple of buns. What determines time? He asked. It's defined by us, I said. Why do we define time? For convenience, I guess. Based on the sun and some angles, or whatever. I don't really understand that stuff, I said. Do you know if there's anything physical that can set the correct time besides using websites to sync? He asked. A sundial? Though I think it only shows local time, and it doesn't have minute or second hands, I said. I looked at the ceiling, searching my brain for those high school science concepts I'd long forgotten. A sundial? He asked. Yeah, that thing from textbooks back in school. There's one in People's Square, that stone block thing, I said. Oh, I got it, he said. At that moment, I had no idea we were about to open a Pandora's box. I cheerfully said goodbye to Marcus and headed back to the office, where I locked the important documents in the safe. Then, at 3 a.m., Marcus called me asking me to meet him at People's Square. I threw on some clothes, locked my apartment, and jogged over. Our company housing wasn't far from the square. The late-night air was cold and damp. I kept my coat pulled tight and ran the whole way. From a distance, I could see a figure standing in the shadows under the overpass, next to a streetlight, holding an axe and smoking. I thought I'd stumbled onto some revenge scene. The figure seemed to notice me and stub out the cigarette, waving me over. I approached nervously and realized it was Marcus. I figured handling this at night was better. Hold on to this for me, he said. Marcus handed me something. Looking down, I saw it was his watch, showing 3 a.m. exactly. I was completely baffled and looked up at him. He hefted the fire axe and patted my shoulder, speaking with grave sincerity. I'll use this sundial instead. You keep my watch. If you can't make that blind date, come find me. I'll adjust her time too, he said. I clutched Marcus's watch in my palm, watching his figure disappear toward People's Square with a fire axe over his shoulder, listening to my heartbeat gradually synchronize with the ticking of the watch in my hand. Tick, tick, tick. Tick. Then I shoved the watch in my pocket and ran. I didn't dare look back. The next day was Saturday and we were working. As soon as I got to the office, I heard Lily from the next department gossiping about how the city government wanted compensation. Marcus had pried the sundial off and taken it home, and he'd installed watch hands on it. Since strange employee behavior could damage the company's reputation, the company paid for the sundial repairs and sent people around trying to suppress the story so it wouldn't make the news. But destroying the sundial wasn't simple theft. It was classified as a case with social impact. As Marcus's last known contact, when the police showed up with a few reporters, I knew things had gotten serious. This had blown up big time. I went to the break room and tried to stay calm, looking like I felt guilty about not checking on a coworker's mental health. The police didn't give me a hard time. They just asked about Marcus's motives. I couldn't exactly tell them it was because I couldn't make my blind date. So I told them everything I knew about Marcus's overtime addiction and that watch, exaggerating wildly. Then I swore up and down that the reason Marcus did something so inexplicable was that his watch had broken. The young police officer's eyes filled with sympathy. Before leaving, he even asked if Marcus needed a therapist and gently told me they were just finding him and asking him to write a reflection essay at home. The company held a meeting on the theme of self-stress management under high pressure. Looking at the banner and the bold text on the PowerPoint, I felt like they were missing the point entirely. Marcus didn't steal the sundial because of work stress. Deep down, I felt I should take some responsibility, but I was afraid to. Anyway, the police had already made their determination. The truth didn't really matter. Thinking this way, I rubbed my nose and stared at the screen, not saying a word during the psychologist's passionate lecture. The speeches from the leaders went on way too long. I yawned under my desk and discreetly pulled out my phone to scroll. I opened a local news notification. Hashtag company employee under high pressure steals public square sundial hashtag was trending. Then came a whole discussion about how overtime traumatizes employees' mental health. I closed my eyes and felt the world was truly both magical and hopeless. 8:16 a.m. I clocked in at the office door, right on time. Walking into the office, I put my briefcase on my desk and pulled out the watch that had caused all the trouble. I'd kept it in my bag since I brought it home that night. I was planning to sneak over to Marcus's place while he was on leave, adjust the time on the watch, and quietly put it in his desk drawer so that when he came back to work, he'd give up on his obsession with controlling time. If he tried to steal another sundial, he'd definitely end up in a psychiatric hospital. I was reclining in my chair, listening to Lily typing across from me, when I unscrewed the crown on the side of the watch and casually asked, "What time is it?" I asked. 8:20. Why, did you buy the same model as Marcus? Are you going to become a workaholic too? Don't go crazy like Marcus and turn into a mental case. Lily suddenly started gossiping, stretching her neck over the divider to look at my watch. I didn't respond to her. I just stared at the watch face in front of me, watching the hands point directly to 8:20 a.m., my mouth hanging open. The watch showed the same time as the sundial now.